Welcome to Ministers Talking a weekly program where Rev Briz and Rev Z and their guests chat about current affairs, world events, spiritual principles, and any old they want to talk about. Based on the New Thought philosophy and ancient wisdoms, Ministers Talking shares a visionary perspective of the evolving spiral called spiritual living. Join us each week as we explore the emerging paradigm of life on planet Earth and beyond.
And hello again, dear ones. Dr. Robert with you over here.
Rev Z right here.
And this is Ministers Talking Shit for January 9th, 2026. Welcome to the chaos, I guess is what we could say. Let's start with the good news, Z. It's snowing in Colorado. Holy moly, folks! It's
yes,
it's not a lot. I think it was maybe 3 or 4 inches on my deck this morning, but it's snowing in Colorado. It's middle of January already, or at least the first third of January, and we need it. We need it badly. Mountains are in bad shape. Water totals are in bad shape, but hey, it's snowing in Colorado.
Yeah, I it's still sprinkling snow, if you will, over here. My house coming down lightly, but few inches. We need it, but the I don't know. I'll say ironic part about it is, come Monday, we're supposed to be back up in the mid-50s.
Yep. Oh yeah, exactly. I'll be surprised if there's snow tomorrow morning. If there's still snow on the ground tomorrow morning. Models are fluctuating. It's whether it's going to get warm enough tomorrow, but it could all be gone tomorrow. So, and I don't know if you saw this story or not. Denver City had a massive fire this past week. An entire city block was decimated by a construction fire. Now, no one was injured. It was a new apartment complex that was being built in not in lower downtown Denver, but in Denver proper. And firefighters did a great job of keeping the fire from spreading to other buildings or impacting other homes in the area. But the federal government's been called in to investigate, because now they're saying there are signs this could be arson and is a suspicious fire. And an entire city block is and it wasn't just it was still smoldering 2 days later. They were still working the mop up 2 days following the initial blaze. Lit up a good portion of the city, and the smoke plume was you could see the smoke plume on the weather radar. The smoke was so thick and so pervasive, you could see the smoke plume go east across on the weather radar. So we're grateful no one was hurt in that incident, and we'll let you know more as that story develops. But interesting stuff happening everywhere, including Minneapolis.
Yeah, and I think if I look at all of the cities and people rising up to protest this, I think it's a great way for people to be made aware that this could happen to you while you are exercising your freedom assembly. And they're going to play this 5 ways to Sundays. Well, they looked like they was trying to run over him, and but they could have shot the tire. They had three officers. They're close enough to shoot all the tires, not just one. They could have shot all of them and stopped her. And then this would not be the way it is. The 37-year-old woman who's now gone, and there's a child with no mother.
3 children. And I agree. Not only you could have shot the tire.
Oh, she had three children. Oh, wow.
Yeah, 3 children. You could have shot the tire. And let's be realistic. You could have just let her go because she had pulled out of her own driveway, my understanding. So you've got, obviously there's video and you've got her license plate. Let her go. Go arrest her later. Knock on the door later and say, hey, you were involved in an incident. We need to speak to you about it. There's so many things in mind that are wrong about this story. No attempt to de-escalate. The initial interaction was get out of the effing car by the other officer. And here's the one that, and using officer, I'm going to use that term lightly this morning. Here's the one that really upsets me. When have you ever heard of an officer-involved shooting where the officer was allowed to get into their personal vehicle and drive themselves away from the scene? Because that's what happened here. He shot, he fired, he holstered his weapon, and he walked across the street and got in his own car and he drove away. And his colleagues, if you will, let him do it. Now, to me, that speaks of corruption right then and there. Because maybe I'm mistaken, but every story I've ever read, every police drama I've ever watched, if you shoot somebody, they take your gun, they put you in a car, and they isolate you. Because they got to do an investigation. Is this justified? There's video, there's not video. Yeah, there's witnesses. They got to do all that investigation to clear your name. And my sense is they don't care about whether he did or didn't do it. The ICE officials have no concern whatsoever for the facts in the case. And part of that is, yeah, you're right. They start calling her a domestic terrorist, a woman that was screaming, which we now know is her wife. So the woman screaming in the original video, they called a professional agitator. There's now stories emerging that she was on a watch list, an ICE watch list, because she was an active agitator, and all these things to slander this woman's name with no investigation, with no proof. So, here we are again, living in a post-truth world where if Trump says it's real, if Kristi Noem says she's a dog worth being shot, then she was a dog worth being shot. And I don't agree with it. And I know so many of our friends and our people in the New Thought movement don't believe any of this.
No. I mean, and if you thought 2025 was drama filled with all kinds of superiority tactics, if you will, you look at what we are not even 2 weeks into the new year. We have situations with ICE going on. We didn't even get to the Venezuelan thing yet. We didn't even get to the Greenland thing yet. Or
Mexico.
We didn't get to the whole, or Mexico. I mean, you think about it, it's like, here's a president who wants to be looked upon as a peacemaker, and he's starting conflicts all over the globe.
Yep.
And undermining the the sovereignty, if you will, of this country in terms of, can they be trusted? Have they lost the handle and are in a position now where they're just just unhinged.
Yep. According to ICE officials have reported 16 shooting incidences in 2016 or in 2026, excuse me. In the first 9 days of the year,
Wow.
ICE officers have shot at 16 different human beings. Or excuse me, 16 incidences. The one yesterday in Portland,
Wow.
I imagine they counted as one incident, even though it was two different people that were wounded. Right? 16. If we had 16 school shootings in 9 days, do you think the country would be sitting around going, oh, it's okay? They're just doing their job. The governor of Minnesota suspended school yesterday and today, my understanding, because it's not safe. And ICE officials raided a high school later that afternoon. And they had to close, and they're closing their schools because they're afraid of the federal government. Let that sink in, folks. This needs to change, and it needs to change rapidly. And unfortunately, the people that have the power to change it appear to be completely deaf to what's going on out here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And at some point, we have to go back and look at this. There's nothing other to say than police state that we are creating right now, and determine as a people, is this something we want to continue? Because the more and more it happens and the more it gets away with it, it will become normalized. And people won't pay attention. They'll be, oh, that's just what they do. And I do my best to stay out of the way. And it'll just get worse and worse and worse.
Yep. The initial, I like what you said.
And when I look at, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you read some of the dystopic novels, and you look at some of the dystopic where life on just that's where we are right. We are together. You look at legal systems, creators.
Yeah. There's I've seen a quote run, the Orwell quote from 1984 has been running around this week. The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. Don't believe what you see. That's not what happened. She tried to run him over. She first say, and now we've also come to learn that this the shooter was involved in an incident not long ago where he broke the window of a suspect's vehicle and tried to open the door, which seems to be a popular tactic with these guys. And the driver drug that same officer 300 feet before he let go, needed stitches, was in the hospital, yada, yada, yada. If he ain't gotten over that trauma, what's he doing walking around on the streets carrying a gun? If he hasn't processed that trauma, and it would appear that ICE agents have no training in de-escalation whatsoever, that they're trained to escalate these incidences, it would appear that even while supposedly this officer had a ton of training, he didn't use any of it. He just ready to pull the trigger.
You know, we've turned the police, we've turned the military on our own people. Is basically what we're doing.
Right. Yep. And we can draw a line back to exactly where it started,
which means we are looked upon as enemy, not as citizens.
Right. Yep. And you more so as a black man than me as a white man. If I showed up on that scene and put a mask over my face, I'd be okay. Mm-hmm. If you showed up on that scene and put a mask up over your face, you'd be suspect. You'd be in line to get on a watch list. And you know, I want to draw this back a little bit because we know where this started, and you and I have talked about this before. This goes all the way back to slave era days. The police as an organization were started predominantly to capture runaway slaves. Law enforcement can be traced back to the Underground Railroad and to men that were enlisted and paid to track down and capture runaway slaves. And we've talked about this before. We talked about this during the Defund the Police campaigns, and we've talked about this in the 2020 riots and demonstrations, and here we are 2026, and it would appear that we have reached the head. We have reached the tip of the spear, and ICE has been given free rein to shoot just about anybody they want and then justify it later.
Yeah, and themselves at night. How do they come out, continually support and perpetrate the administration's utter madness, and go home and sleep at night? I just to jump to another subject quickly here. We'll get back to the Venezuelan oil, which I think you know, we had an incident here you were making me aware of in Colorado, what happened to some gas. But before we get there, this whole idea of us now, or the energy being perpetrated, that we are now going to go in and take over Greenland, just like we did Venezuela, maybe a little more savvy, is like, you got to be kidding me. So now we're going in and we're going to be colonizers again. Back to I mean, we ran away from colonialism or colonization when we started this country. Now we're going to go do the same to other countries. And we're supposed to be a part of NATO. They're a part of NATO. So if that whole thing falls apart, look out.
Yep. I've been seeing reports that Trump's attempt to get the oil companies to go in and rebuild Venezuela have kind of been met with crickets. The oil companies are like, no, thanks. Nah, that's good. We're good. We're all right. We're good. No, don't want to deal with. Right? And who's got the money to rebuild a country other than the oil companies? Not too many. We don't have the money to go down there and rebuild Venezuela. We don't have the political will or the money to do it. And oil companies, yeah, private entities, they have the money, they have the infrastructure, they know how to do this. If you're not watching the television show Landman, go watch it. It's a great, great look at how corrupt oil companies could be, and I gotta be careful; they'll shut us off. The government will keep us on. The oil companies will shut us off in a minute. But the oil companies are saying, no, we don't want to go into Venezuela. And to your point with Greenland, Trump, I've also seen a report. Now, I didn't get a chance to follow it up. I just saw it a few minutes before airtime that supposedly Trump is going to make an offer to the citizens of Greenland to not invade, but to buy them out at the tune of $100,000 a person. I got a sense the people of Greenland are a little more savvy than to give up their country for just $100,000. But it's that kind of hubris that, I mean, are we watching a repeat of the fall of the Roman Empire at this point? I think we may be. We're watching, we are witnessing the fall of the American empire. We're definitely witnessing the fall of American democracy. That seems almost a given at this point.
And you know, the thing that just rolls around in the back of my mind is it is these exact type of conditions that led to the first two world wars, right? See, because, you know, there are puzzle pieces that have to be put together. Okay, we stop in the Venezuelan oil and we're taking over and we're seizing ships. Now, most of those ships we know, or we won't say most, but a lot of those ships have appeared to be going to China and Russia, and we're seizing those. So now they're going to have to make some kind of arrangement to get those, you know, oil supplies, whether it's gas or oil or whatever, from either Iran or some other source that we don't like. So now there's going to be an alliance between people that we say we have issues with, and we're forcing them to work together more, which can only lead to tensions.
Yep. And I would have to think Denmark signs on with Russia and China if we take over Greenland. Let's remember, Greenland is a part of Denmark, and they are a NATO country. So yeah, right. The NATO countries would be required by the NATO pact to declare war on the U.S. if we attack one of our own. Right. We're in a mess, folks. The point is we're in a mess. And I know I'm getting messages every day that people are, Robert, you're supposed to be spreading love and light, and you guys are ministers, and how you're letting this happen, and yada, 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 yada. And the truth is, if we don't stand up, if the spiritual people in this world, if those that want peace and love don't stand up, those that want power and will do whatever it takes, somebody's got to stand up. I saw another good one. It's been going around for a while. And it says, first they came for the artists or something like that. And the rest of the meme is, and then I said something because I've already read that poem. Right? We know how this goes. We've seen the blueprint again and again in history, and they've already come for the immigrants, and they've already come for anybody with any melatonin in their melanin, excuse me, with any melanin in their system. They've already come, and they're coming hard, and they're coming strong. And if you dare say no, they're prepared to shoot you.
Well, you know, as we head into Black History Month next month, and I look at the situation, and based on my personal experience and my study of history, there are a lot of people that are, I'm trying to find the right words here. When I go back and I look at the black experience in this country, let me try to say it this way.
Okay.
The things that are being done and the situations that are being presented to the people and the way they are vilifying people is a replay of an old movie. The movie has been played before, and the haves can give two pennies, it appears, of the have-nots. And now that falls into a broader, as you said, spectrum of melanin. But the conditions, the tactics, the approach, the propaganda is the same thing that happened to blacks in this country during slavery, right after slavery, and continuing right now.
Yeah.
The landscape has changed, the tactics has changed, the wording has changed, but the game is still the same, right? And I think a lot of people have been duped into believing that first, yeah, they wouldn't do that, but now they're getting some firsthand encounter with it, and I'm hoping that it a while allows them to wake up and say, "Ooh, they were right. We
Yeah.
need to band together."
And here's the thing that the far right and the MAGA don't seem to remember. This story always ends up the same way, with the leader in a bunker, buried in the ground, in a hole, with a gun into their head. In one way or another, the story, now don't get me wrong, I'm not advocating violence, but at some point, the story ends with the dictator huddled in a hole in the ground. Look at Hitler. Look at Saddam Hussein. Look at Bin Laden. The story always ends with the leader hiding in a hole in the ground until other forces come to get him. I want to see Canada invade the U.S. and arrest the Trumps just the way we did to Maduro and his wife. Do you see the pictures of the black eye she's got? The woman was obviously beaten. You don't get that kind of bruising on your face falling down a flight of stairs or tripping over somebody's feet while you're being drug out of your bedroom in the middle of the night in your pajamas. The woman was beaten. It seems very obvious. And I think we've got to be willing to say the emperor's not wearing any clothes before our prayers of love and light become effective.
Yeah, that's obvious. Yeah. It's like if you go to the best set of doctors in the world, if they don't know what they're treating, they have no idea what the medication should be or what the regimen should be to relieve yourself of that ailment. And
yeah, true.
we have to be clear about identifying the ailment, and I think that's what we do here. That's what we strive to do here, is make you aware that there is an ailment, there is a sickness. We've diagnosed it a little bit, and you need to start taking some medicine, some precautions, and changing your habits, if you will.
Yeah. I find it interesting that in the last year you haven't heard much about the Proud Boys or any of the far right militia groups. There hasn't been any marches by the far right militia groups. There hasn't been any there hasn't been any standing up and we want to take and we shall come back and yada yada yada. And I think that's because ICE hired them all. They all went and got jobs. They're not storming the Capitol because now they represent the Capitol.
Oh boy, that's funny. That's funny. And and
Funny,
and, and to
scary. Yeah.
I've seen those ads where you can get a bonus and all of that. The U.S. government has frozen the funds for 5 Democratic states for child care to the tune of about $10 billion.
Yep.
Now, just think about it. Not only are they reconstructing the curriculum to tell the story in their image, if you will, they're taking away $10 billion for childcare, which includes, kindergarten programs. They're not going to have a story at all.
Right.
And this is just slowly. They do these great big things. We're going to invade Venezuela, but now we're going to slip in this thing about we're going to take funding away from childcare, and they rearranged the diet pyramid and turned it upside down and said, "Oh no, just eat a bunch of meat and drink a bunch of dairy and whole milk." That we know has bad effects on the body trying to process all of that protein. Yes, we know we are mainly protein, but you don't, I mean, there's other things that we're made of than that. I don't get it. And people are saying, I don't know what they're saying. Most of them seem to just be going along.
I'm gonna go create a recruitment poster. Now hiring ICE. Unlimited upward potential. $10,000 signing bonus. Come hunt black and brown people legally. You come hunt black and brown people. And isn't that every white supremacist's right, Christian nationalist's wet dream? To come hunt black and brown people legally. I mean, we make a little light of this.
It sounds crazy, but we're headed there.
Yeah, we're headed towards civil war. And I saw another article this week that now they're blaming it on AI, but that AI is feeding it. Because if you go look at the far right narrative, if you go look at OAN News and other niche, YouTube won't show me any of this stuff because I watch liberal stuff. But if you're watching far right type content, YouTube will be happy to feed you as much of it as you want and lead you down these rabbit holes. And the next thing you know, you're getting an entirely different narrative of what happened in Minneapolis, of what happened in Portland last night, in what happened across the country, and why ICE has had to shoot at humans 16 times in 9 days. Where else do we hear of 16 shootings in 9 days, but in a war? And so there are pundits that say AI has already pushed us to civil war, and we maybe don't see it yet, but that we are in a civil war. And I believe, and I still believe in the power of humanity. Not white, not brown, not black, of humanity, of our ability to see beyond the lies. I still believe in new thoughts, opportunity to influence that, to speak to that, to call for peace, but recognize that we also have to be willing to stand up, stand out, and take some action. January 20th.
Yeah.
January 20th, there is a call for a national walkout. It's a Monday, I believe. January 20th, or what is it? Let's check the date.
Tuesday.
Sorry, it's Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday.
Yep. And the website is freeamerica.ca. So spell out Free America, put a dot before the CA. that makes it a Canadian website. That means the U.S. can't take it down or do anything about it. I love how intelligent people are out there. So freeamerica.ca, Free America, is where you can learn more. But there's calls for a general strike and a general walkout on the 20th. Now, we have an interview that day, so we'll be here on the New Thought Media Network. We'll have our normal New Thought Today program in the afternoon, but you can bet your bottom dollar I'm going to be walking out somewhere that morning and joining people in the streets to say, no more. This has got to end. And it does scare me, because if our elected officials aren't going to do something about it, our good friend David Alexander had a great point on all of this. Get yourself a bunch of voter registration cards, and anywhere you go, start handing them out. Because the only way we're really going to change this is for a massive show in the midterms. We need a major showing in the midterms to say, you, and there have been some, right? The Senate voted yesterday with a number of Republicans crossing the line, and the U.S. Senate voted to censure Donald Trump's authority to perpetuate or to move the military into Venezuela. So there's starting to be cracks in the armor. There's starting to be cracks in the facade, that there are a group of Republicans that are starting to stand up to him and saying, no more. So legally, the Senate has said we are not allowed to use military force in Venezuela. I have a hard time believing that our military leaders won't follow the illegal orders of our commander. And yeah, I'm not even going to say that. But don't give up hope, folks. Don't give up hope. Now more than ever is the time for good people to stand up and be seen, to stand up and be counted, because what they want is they want you to stay home. They want you to go hide in your attic. And that's what we can't do.
Yeah, thinking about here, still I'm already projecting into Black History Month, and I'm thinking about the Underground Railroad, and the construction of that, and the various parts that various people played across the spectrum, black, white, free, slave, that made it possible for people to obtain freedom. I start thinking about the Public Enemy song back in the late 80s, Fight the Power. We have to begin to look at, this is my mantra for the year, the story of one. There is the story of one says and is and demonstrates every day that there is a relationship between everything on this planet, and if it gets out of balance, it will correct itself, or it will do some things that are not liked. I'll leave it at that. When we see the weather patterns and the governmental patterns and the human rights patterns that are spreading across the globe, where there's total disregard for everything except for yourself and your kind, that's a problem. There's a verse in the Quran that says, God made us into nations and tribes, not that we may despise each other, but that we may know each other. Because the person who grows up in the rainforest has a different set of skills than someone who grows up in a desert.
Right. Yeah, true.
And they get to see the world from different perspectives and understand different laws and the way things work out. Now, imagine if you are able to look at it from that perspective and come together and create something entirely more inclusive by bringing those things together and knowing when to use them. We have to stop looking at my neighbor or me or my what as the enemy.
Right.
The enemy is confusion. The enemy is unbalanced. The enemy is disharmony. And those are the things we should be fighting against, if you will, or looking to eradicate, and not
Yep.
each other. And right now, it's we are despising each other as opposed to getting to know each other.
Yep, exactly. Folks, if you wonder what you stumbled into here today, this is Ministers Talking Shit. We get together every Friday morning and chat about whatever it is we want to chat about. And truthfully, I think there's nothing more important to chat about right now than how we bring the new thought philosophy to bear on the issues and the complications and the chaos of what's happening all around us today. We're going to get out of here for now. Let you get into the rest of your day. Let you get into your weekend. We want to thank you for being with us. We want to thank you for being a part of what we're doing here on New Thought Media Network. Please check out all of our programming throughout the day. The High Vibe Hour with Rev Skip is here at 11 a.m. The Joy Show with Reverend Barbara Jean. New episodes premiering today at 1 p.m. The Good News is at 5. Pastor Michael and the Fireside Chat is at 6. And, of course, all of our normal morning programming, including our morning prayer, start at 8:15. So join us for all of that and be a part of the solution. My big call right now is be in the consciousness of a solution. There is a solution. We are the solution, I believe. And we've got to let our voice be heard. And we might have to shout pretty loud to be heard over the cacophony of fear and hate that are out there right now. But don't let that dissuade you. Be the light out in the world. Z, final thoughts?
Sir.
Yeah.
I think for me, again, sticking to that story of one, find one thing in your life where you are in disharmony and figure out how to bring harmony to the oneness of all there is, which is this planet and the cosmos that we live in.
Amen. All right, folks, we're out of here for now. Until next time, we wish you peace and richest blessings. Bye now.
And thanks for listening to this week's episode of Ministers Talking. We'll be back again next week with more commentary on current affairs, world events, and any other our ministers want to talk about. And if you found value here, please share our with your friends. Until next time, peace and blessings.